The maid's blind date humiliated her in front of everyone for bringing only $1 to dinner. She fled in tears while strangers laughed. What she didn't know, her boss had been sitting across the restaurant the entire time, watching everything unfold. Adrian Moretti didn't believe in coincidences. Yet here he was, seated in the private corner of La Veta, the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, watching his maid get destroyed by a man in a cheap suit. He'd come for business. A Russian investor named Dmitry wanted to discuss shipping routes through the harbor. Boring, necessary work that required Adrian's careful attention. But the moment he'd stepped onto the Camelot terrace, he'd spotted her. Clara. His live-in maid of 3 years. The quiet woman who brought him coffee at dawn and never asked questions about the blood on his shirts. She was sitting 20 feet away, wearing a floral dress he'd never seen before. Her hair was curled. She'd even put on lipstick. And across from her sat a man who was currently checking his phone while she spoke. "Mr. Moretti, the paperwork," Dmitry said, sliding a folder across the table. Adrian's eyes didn't leave Clara. One moment. The man across from Clara, tall, gelled hair, expensive watch, finally looked up from his phone. Adrian watched his lips move. Watched Clara's smile falter. Watched her hands fold nervously in her lap. Something was wrong. "Is there a problem?" Dmitry asked, following Adrian's gaze. "No." Adrian pulled his attention back, signing the documents with swift, practiced strokes. Business first. Always business first. But his jaw was tight, and his second-in-command, Vincent, noticed. Vincent always noticed. The deal took 12 minutes. Adrian made sure it was airtight, confirmed the wire transfer, and shook Dmitry's hand. The Russian left happy. Adrian remained seated, swirling the wine in his glass, watching. Clara was laughing now, but it was the wrong kind of laugh. Nervous. Apologetic. The man, Eric, he'd learn later, was leaning back in his chair like he owned the place, snapping his fingers at a waiter. "She's on a date," Vincent murmured beside him. "I can see that. You want me to?" "No," Adrian's voice was cold. "Watch." He didn't know why he cared. Clara was an employee. A good one, sure. She never gossiped, never stole, never tried to flirt her way into his bed like the others had. She simply worked, quietly and thoroughly, then disappeared into her room each night with a book. Maybe that was why. The waiter arrived at Clara's table with the bill. Adrian saw her reach for her small purse, the same worn leather one she carried to the market. She pulled out a $1 bill and placed it on the table, her cheeks flushed. Eric's face transformed. "Are you kidding me?" His voice carried across the terrace. Several diners turned. $1? One. Clara's voice was too soft to hear, but Adrian saw her lips move. Saw her trying to explain. Saw Eric cut her off with a sharp laugh. "You bring $1 to La Veta?" Eric stood now, loud enough that every conversation on the terrace died. "Do you know how much this meal cost? $200. And you thought a single dollar would cover your token tip?" Adrian's fingers tightened on his wine glass. Clara was standing too, her voice shaking. I thought we were splitting." "Splitting?" Eric's laugh was cruel. "You're maid. You told me yourself. What made you think you could afford a place like this? Did you really think I'd pay for some cheap gold digger pretending to be something she's not?" The terrace was silent. 50 pairs of eyes watched Clara's humiliation unfold like a theater performance. She reached for her purse with trembling hands. I'll call someone. I can get the money." "From who?" "Your boss." Eric's sneer was vicious. "Does he even know you're here, pretending to be fancy? You probably stole that dress from his wife's closet." That was when Adrian saw it. The moment Clara's face crumpled. Not with anger. She didn't have the luxury of anger. With shame. Pure, crushing shame. She turned and ran. Not walked. Ran. Through the tables, past the staring diners, toward the elevator. Her heels clicked rapidly against the marble. One of them caught, and she stumbled, catching herself on a chair. Someone laughed. Eric was still standing at the table, arms crossed, playing to his audience. Can you believe that? She actually thought. Vincent, Adrian said quietly. Yes, boss. Get me everything on that man. Name, address, employment, family, debts. Everything. Vincent's smile was sharp. Consider done. And call Russo. I want to know who owns this restaurant. You thinking of buying it? Adrian stood, buttoning his suit jacket. His wine sat unfinished. His mind was already 3 steps ahead, mapping out possibilities, contingencies, pressure points. I'm thinking, he said softly, that I don't like the entertainment. He walked past Eric's table on his way out. Didn't look at him. Didn't acknowledge him. But he paused, just for a second, letting his presence fill the space. Eric's smug expression flickered. Adrian kept walking. Outside, the city sprawled below in rivers of light. His driver opened the car door, but Adrian didn't get in. He stood there, watching the restaurant entrance. 30 seconds later, Clara burst through the doors. Her mascara was running. She was crying into her phone, trying to call a taxi. Her hands shook so badly, she dropped it twice. Adrian could have called out. Could have offered her a ride. Could have done the decent thing. But Adrian Moretti wasn't decent. He was methodical. And he'd learned long ago that comfort was temporary. Power was permanent. Sir? His driver asked. Adrian finally slid into the car, his expression carved from stone. But his eyes were the cold gray of a winter storm. Take me home, he said. And tell Vincent I want that information in 2 hours. As the car pulled away, Adrian watched Clara in the side mirror, alone on the sidewalk, waiting for a taxi that was taking too long. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. But somewhere in the darkness of his chest, something ancient and territorial stirred. Someone had embarrassed what was his. That was a mistake. And Adrian Moretti never let mistakes go unpunished. Clara didn't come home that night. Adrian noticed at 6 a.m. when his coffee didn't appear on his desk. The house felt different, too quiet, even for its usual silence. He found Maria, the cook, in the kitchen. Where's Clara? Maria's hands stilled over the cutting board. She called last night, Mr. Moretti. Said she was staying with her sister. Asked for the day off. Adrian said nothing. He poured his own coffee, black, and returned to his office, where Vincent was already waiting with a folder. Eric Castellano, Vincent said, dropping the file on the desk. 29. Junior sales executive at Prestige Motors, the luxury car dealership on 5th. Comes from money. Well, his uncle does. Runs an import business called Castellano Trade Group. They handle textiles, mostly. Modest operation, but they've got contracts with 3 major retailers. Adrian flipped through the papers. Bank statements. Social media screenshots. One showed Eric at La Veta, posting from last night. Dinner with a gold digger who brought $1. Some people really don't know their place. Face with tears of joy. 400 likes. Dozens of comments laughing along. Adrian's expression didn't change, but his finger tapped the photo once. Twice. The restaurant, he asked. La Veta. Owned by Marcus Delano. He's drowning. Took out loans to renovate last year, but business hasn't recovered. He's 3 months behind on payments to the Northside Bank. Who holds the debt? Vincent smiled. As of this morning? A shell company we can easily acquire. Adrian stood, walking to the window. The city stretched before him, waking up. Somewhere out there, Clara was probably still crying, still feeling small, still believing she deserved what happened. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. By the debt, Adrian said. Then by the restaurant. I want ownership transferred by tomorrow night. Quietly. And Castellano? Not yet. Adrian turned back, his face unreadable. Let him enjoy his moment. Vincent hesitated. Boss. With respect, this is a lot of noise over a maid. People might wonder. Let them wonder. Adrian's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. I don't tolerate disrespect. Not in my city. Not to anyone under my roof. Understood, Vincent nodded. What about the girl? You want me to leave her alone. She'll come back when she's ready. But Adrian wasn't sure she would. He'd seen the look on her face. That kind of shame didn't wash off easily. Clara did come back, but not until the next evening. Adrian was in his study when he heard the front door open. Soft footsteps. The sound of her bag being set down in the entryway. He didn't go to her. Didn't call out. He simply waited. 20 minutes later, there was a gentle knock on his door. Come in. Clara entered with a tea tray, his usual evening routine. But she looked different. Smaller somehow. Her eyes were swollen, and she wouldn't look at him. Mr. Moretti, she said quietly, setting the tray on his desk. I apologize for missing work yesterday. It won't happen again. Clara. She froze at the use of her name. He rarely used names. Look at me. Slowly, she raised her eyes. They were red-rimmed but defiant, like she was fighting to hold herself together. Are you all right? He asked. The question seemed to surprise her. Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. Liar. But Adrian didn't push. If you need more time. No, her voice was firm. I'd prefer to work, if that's acceptable. He studied her for a long moment. Pride. She had pride, despite everything. That was interesting. Very well. Maria needs help with the evening inventory. Yes, sir. She turned to leave. Clara. She stopped, her back still to him. What happened at that restaurant, Adrian said carefully, was not a reflection of you. Her shoulders tensed. You saw. I was there. For business. The silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Clara's hand gripped the doorframe. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry you had to witness that. It must have been embarrassing for you, having your staff. It wasn't embarrassing for me. Adrian's tone was cold, precise. It was insulting to my household. There's a difference. Clara finally turned, confusion flickering across her face. I don't understand. You don't need to. He returned his attention to the papers on his desk, dismissing her. Just know that it's been handled. Handled? I don't, Mr. Moretti. I don't want you to do anything. Please. It was my fault. I shouldn't have. You're dismissed, Clara. She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. With a small nod, she left, closing the door softly behind her. Adrian sat in the silence, his tea growing cold. His phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Debt acquired. Meeting with Delano set for midnight. Adrian typed back. Good. And Vincent. Yes, boss. Find out where Eric Castellano will be this weekend. I want to know his routine. On it. Adrian set down his phone and picked up the photo from the file. Eric's smug face stared back at him from the restaurant post. Enjoy your likes, Adrian murmured to the empty room. They're the last thing you'll have to smile about. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Sir, came Vincent's voice. Prepare the car. We have a restaurant to buy. Marcus Delano looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Adrian could see it in the tremor of his hands, the purple shadows under his eyes, the way he kept glancing at the contract like it might disappear if he looked away too long. They sat in La Veta after closing, the rooftop empty except for Vincent standing by the door and one of Delano's lawyers, a nervous man who'd already reviewed the documents twice. This is generous, Delano said, his voice hoarse. More than generous. The amount you're offering is above market value. I'm not interested in market value, Adrian replied, swirling the whiskey in his glass. I'm interested in acquisition. Tonight. But why? Why this restaurant? Delano's desperation was giving way to suspicion. La Veta isn't even profitable right now. You could buy 3 other properties for better return. Mr. Delano. Adrian set down his glass with deliberate care. I'm offering you a way out of debt and a consulting position for the next year at double your current salary. Those are favorable terms. Don't make me reconsider them by asking questions that don't concern you. The lawyer leaned over, whispering urgently to Delano. Adrian caught fragments. Accepted. Northside Bank will seize. Bankruptcy. Delano's shoulders sagged. He picked up the pen. There is one condition, Adrian said before the signature could be completed. Delano's hand froze. What condition? You keep your current staff. All of them. No one gets fired during the transition. That's it. Delano blinked in confusion. You want me to keep the staff? Do we have an agreement? Yes. Yes, of course. Delano signed rapidly, as if afraid Adrian might change his mind. 3 copies. Initialed. Witnessed. Done. Adrian stood, buttoning his jacket. The transfer will be complete by morning. You'll receive an email with your new employment contract. I expect your cooperation during the relaunch. Relaunch. Delano looked up. You're changing La Veta? I'm improving it. Adrian headed toward the door, then paused. One more thing. I'll need a list of everyone who dined here in the past 2 weeks. Every reservation, every name. I suppose that's possible. May I ask why? Adrian's smile didn't reach his eyes. Customer research. Back in the car, Vincent handed him a tablet. Castellano Trade Group's contracts. All 3 retailers source their fabric through them. Modest business, but steady. Who else could supply those retailers? Adrian asked, scrolling through the data. Europa Textiles, Harmony Imports, or Pacific Thread. All bigger operations. Contact them. Offer better rates than Castellano. Undercut them by 15% for the first quarter. Make sure the retailers know they have options. Vincent made notes. That'll bleed Castellano's income, but it won't destroy them. Not immediately. I don't want immediate. Adrian handed back the tablet. I want slow. Steady. I want them to feel it. And Eric. What did you find? Vincent pulled up a photo on his phone. He works Tuesday through Saturday at Prestige Motors. Posts on social media constantly, brags about sales commissions, bottle service at clubs, dates with different women every week. He's got an ego the size of the city. Good. Egos break easier. Adrian looked out the window. What about his connection to the uncle? Antonio Castellano. He basically raised Eric after Eric's parents died. Paid for his education, got him the job at the dealership. Eric's his only nephew, treats him like a son. So, if the uncle's business fails, Eric feels it personally, Vincent grinned. I like where this is going. Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Moretti, this is Clara. I apologize for texting so late. I wanted to thank you for your kindness earlier. It meant more than you know. He stared at the message for a long moment. Vincent glanced over. The maid. She thanked me. Adrian's tone was unreadable. You going to respond? Adrian typed. No thanks necessary. Rest well. He hit send, then added to Vincent. Accelerate the timeline. I want Castellano Trade Group struggling within the week. That's aggressive. He posted about her online. Called her a gold digger. Made her a joke for strangers to laugh at. Adrian's voice went cold. That kind of disrespect doesn't get a slow burn. It gets erased. Vincent nodded slowly. Understood. What about Europa Textiles? They'll want something in return for undercutting their competitor. Offer them a distribution deal through our shipping network. Exclusive rates on 3 routes. That's a significant asset to give up for revenge on a nobody. Adrian looked at him, and Vincent immediately regretted his words. She's not a nobody, Adrian said quietly. She's mine. She lives under my roof, eats my food, works in my household. That makes her mine. And what's mine doesn't get humiliated without consequence. The car fell silent. Vincent cleared his throat. I'll make the calls tonight. Good. Adrian turned back to the window. And Vincent, find out when La Veta has its first available reservation slot. I want to host a private dinner next week. For my household staff. Call it appreciation. Vincent's eyebrows rose. You've never done that before. I've never needed to before. Adrian's reflection in the window showed nothing but cold calculation. Make sure Clara's invited. Tell her it's mandatory. And if she refuses? She won't. Adrian's smile was sharp. She's too polite to refuse. Outside, the city lights blurred past. Somewhere in one of those buildings, Eric Castellano was probably asleep, dreaming of commissions and weekend plans. He had no idea that his world had just started crumbling. And by the time he noticed, it would be far too late to stop it. Clara moved through the mansion like a ghost. Adrian noticed it first on Tuesday morning. She brought his coffee as always, but set it down without meeting his eyes. Her movements were efficient, mechanical, like she'd retreated somewhere inside herself where no one could reach her. "Good morning, Clara," he said, testing. "Good morning, Mr. Moretti," polite. Empty. She was already turning away. "The coffee is perfect. Thank you." A pause. "You're welcome, sir." Then she was gone. Maria cornered him in the hallway that afternoon. "Mr. Moretti, I'm worried about Clara." Adrian glanced up from his phone. "Why?" "She's been cleaning obsessively. Yesterday, she scrubbed the third-floor bathrooms twice. No one even uses those rooms. And she hasn't eaten. I've seen her push food around her plate, but she's not actually eating." "Has she said anything?" Maria hesitated. "She asked me if she'd embarrass the household. If people were talking about us because of what happened." Adrian's jaw tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That she's family. That we don't care about gossip." Maria wrung her hands. "But I don't think she believes me. I think she's planning to quit." The words hit harder than they should have. Adrian forced his expression to remain neutral. "Has she submitted notice?" "No. But I found her looking at apartment listings online." "Mr. Moretti, please, she's a good girl. Whatever happened." "I'm aware of what happened." Adrian's tone ended the conversation. "Thank you for informing me." He found Clara an hour later in his study, dusting shelves that didn't need dusting. "Clara." She jumped, nearly dropping the cloth. "Mr. Moretti. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you needed the room." "I don't. But I need to speak with you." Her face went pale. "If this is about the other night." "Sit down." "Sir, I'd rather stand." "Clara." "Sit." She perched on the edge of the chair across from his desk, her hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. She looked like she was waiting for execution. Adrian studied her. The proud woman who'd returned to work despite her humiliation. The one who'd texted him thanks even though she was clearly falling apart. The one who thought she'd tainted his household simply by being mocked. "Maria tells me you're looking at apartments," he said finally. Clara's breath caught. I didn't mean to. I wasn't using your internet inappropriately. I was on my lunch break." "That's not what I asked." Silence. Then, quietly, "Yes. I'm looking." "Why?" She laughed, a broken sound. "Why?" "Mr. Moretti, I brought shame to your home. That man, Eric, he made a spectacle of me at one of the finest restaurants in the city. People were watching. They know I work for you. They probably think." "What do they think?" "That you employ. That your household has." She couldn't finish. "You believe," Adrian said slowly, "that one man's opinion reflects on me?" "It's not just his opinion. It's everyone who saw it. Everyone who laughed. Everyone who," her voice cracked. "I don't belong in places like that. I know that now. And I shouldn't have pretended otherwise." Adrian leaned back in his chair. "You think you don't belong?" "I'm a maid, Mr. Moretti. I clean toilets and fold laundry. That's my place. I shouldn't have forgotten it. And if I told you that man was wrong, with respect, sir, it doesn't matter what you tell me. The world saw what happened. The truth is what people believe, not what is." Smart. She was smarter than she gave herself credit for. That made what he was planning even more satisfying. "There's a dinner," Adrian said, changing direction. "Next Friday. At La Veta. For household staff. You're required to attend." Clara's eyes widened in horror. "No. Please. I can't go back there." "It's not a request. Mr. Moretti, I'm begging you. You work for me, Clara. I'm telling you to attend a work dinner. Are you refusing?" She looked trapped.
Y no, sir.
But please, anywhere else. Any other restaurant. La Veta was recently acquired by new ownership. It's been renovated. You won't recognize it. I don't care if it's been rebuilt from the ground up. I cannot go back to that place. Her voice rose. Then she immediately looked shocked at her own outburst. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to raise my voice. Clara, Adrian's tone was gentle. Dangerous. Do you trust me? The question hung between them. She swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Then trust that I wouldn't ask you to do something without reason. He stood, ending the discussion. Friday, 7 p.m. Vincent will arrange transportation. Wear something nice. But that's all. She stood shakily, moving toward the door. Her hand was on the knob when Adrian spoke again. And Clara? Stop looking at apartments. You're not going anywhere. She turned back, confusion and something else, hope, maybe, flickering across her face. Sir? You're exactly where you belong. The sooner you accept that, the better. She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded and left. Adrian returned to the window, pulling out his phone. A text to Vincent. Status on Castellano? The reply came instantly. Europa Textiles made contact with all 3 retailers. 2 are already switching suppliers. The uncle's company lost $40,000 in contracts today. Adrian typed back. Good. And the restaurant? Renovations complete. Staff briefed. Everything's ready for Friday. Perfect. One more thing. Find out if Eric Castellano needs money. He will soon.
Why?
Because, Adrian wrote, I'm about to offer him a job. He hit send and looked out over the city. Somewhere down there, Clara was probably crying in her room, convinced she'd ruined everything. She had no idea she'd started something that couldn't be stopped. And by Friday, neither would Eric. Eric Castellano's week started falling apart on Wednesday. What do you mean they're pulling the contract? Antonio Castellano's voice echoed through the phone, loud enough that Eric held it away from his ear. Eric sat in his cubicle at Prestige Motors, trying to sound calm. Uncle Tony, I don't know the details. The buyer just said they found a better supplier.
Better?
We've worked with Hartman's department store for 6 years. And now Morrison's called this morning. Same story. Better rates, they said. More reliable shipping. Antonio's breathing was ragged. That's 2/3 of our business, Eric. 2/3. Maybe it's just temporary. Markets fluctuate. Markets don't fluctuate like this. Someone's targeting us. A pause. Have you done something? Pissed off the wrong people. Eric laughed nervously. Uncle Tony, I sell cars. Who would I piss off? But even as he said it, unease prickled at the back of his neck. This was too coordinated. Too sudden. I need you to come to the warehouse tonight, Antonio said. We need to talk about cutting costs. Layoffs, maybe. Layoffs? It's that bad. It's worse than bad. Just be there at 7". The line went dead. Eric stared at his phone, his earlier confidence evaporating. He pulled up his social media, scrolling to the post from Friday night. The one about the maid. 642 likes now. Comments full of laughing emojis and people calling her pathetic. He'd felt so powerful that night. So in control. Why did it feel different now? By Thursday, Eric was desperate. His commission check was half what he'd expected. 3 sales had fallen through at the last minute. His manager had pulled him aside to discuss performance concerns, and worst of all, his uncle had called again. We're closing the warehouse, Antonio had said, his voice hollow. 30 years. 3 decades of building this business, and it's gone in a week.
Gone?
Uncle Tony, you can't just. I don't have a choice. The bank's calling in the loans. I can't make payroll. I can't. He'd broken down. Actually cried. Eric had never heard his uncle cry. What are you going to do? Eric asked quietly. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I can talk to Moretti Holdings.
They own the debt now.
Maybe they'll extend the terms. Moretti Holdings? Some investment group. They bought our debt from Northside Bank on Monday, Antonio sighed. It's a long shot, but I have to try. After the call ended, Eric Googled Moretti Holdings. Nothing. No website, no public information. Just a shell company registered to a law firm downtown. Ghost company. The kind that existed only on paper. A chill ran through him. Friday morning, Eric's phone rang from an unknown number. Is this Eric Castellano? Yeah, who's this? My name is Vincent Russo. I represent the new ownership of La Veta Restaurant. We're looking to hire experienced servers for our relaunch, and your name came up. Eric frowned. I don't work in restaurants. I'm in sales. I'm aware. But our owner believes you have familiarity with the establishment. And given your current circumstances, we thought you might be interested in supplementary income. My current circumstances? We understand Prestige Motors has been undergoing restructuring. We're offering competitive hourly rates plus tips. Weekend shifts available immediately. Eric's stomach dropped. How did they know about his job situation? That information wasn't public. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in being a waiter. Mr. Castellano, Vincent's voice went cold. Let me be clear. Your uncle's company is currently in negotiations with our parent organization regarding his outstanding debt. It would be beneficial to both of you if you showed goodwill by accepting our employment offer. The threat was barely veiled. Eric's hand tightened on the phone. Are you blackmailing me? I'm offering you a job. What you choose to hear is your own business. A pause. Training starts tomorrow at 4 p.m. and we'll send you the details. And if I don't show up, then we'll assume your uncle's company has no interest in restructuring their debt.
Shame.
Bankruptcy is such an ugly process. The line went dead. Eric sat frozen in his car, his heart pounding. This was insane. This was illegal. He should call the police, call a lawyer, call someone. But who would believe him? A vague job offer wasn't proof of blackmail. And if he made waves, his uncle would lose everything. He pulled up that post again. The one about the maid. The comments suddenly didn't seem funny anymore. They seemed cruel, vindictive. Had she done this? No, impossible. She was just a maid. She didn't have this kind of power. But someone did. Someone who'd watched. Someone who'd waited. Someone who was now pulling strings Eric didn't even know existed. Saturday at 3:45 p.m., Eric stood outside La Veta in a white button-down shirt and black slacks. The restaurant looked completely different. New awning, new lighting, everything polished to perfection. A man in an expensive suit stood by the entrance. Vincent. Mr. Castellano. Punctual. Good. Vincent handed him an apron. Follow me. I want to talk to whoever's in charge, Eric said. Your boss. I want to negotiate. You're not in a position to negotiate. Vincent's smile was razor sharp. You're in a position to serve drinks and keep your mouth shut. The faster you learn that, the better this goes for everyone. He opened the door. Eric had no choice but to follow. Inside, staff were setting tables, preparing for what Vincent called a private event. Eric was given a section, uniform, and 15 minutes of training. Who's the event for? Eric asked the other server, a young woman who looked sympathetic. Some wealthy guy's staff appreciation dinner, she said. First event since the ownership change. Everyone's nervous. They say the new owner is, she lowered her voice, connected, if you know what I mean. Eric's blood ran cold. When does it start? He managed. 7 p.m. Why? You look like you've seen a ghost. Eric didn't answer. Because he suddenly understood exactly what was happening. And it was far worse than blackmail. Clara stood in front of her closet, paralyzed. The dress Maria had lent her hung on the door, simple navy blue, elegant but not flashy, appropriate for a staff dinner, completely wrong for facing her worst nightmare. You look like you're preparing for a funeral, Maria said from the doorway. I wish I was. Clara's laugh was brittle. At least then I'd be dead, and wouldn't have to feel anything. Maria stepped inside, closing the door. Clara, honey, you need to tell me what happened at that restaurant. Mr. Moretti won't say, but I know it's bad. Clara's hands trembled as she touched the dress. I went on a date. A blind date my sister set up. The man, Eric, he seemed nice at first. Charming. But when the bill came, and I only had $1 for the tip, she closed her eyes. He destroyed me, Maria. In front of everyone. Called me a cheap gold digger, said I was pretending to be something I wasn't.
People laughed.
They actually laughed. Oh, sweetheart. And now Mr. Moretti wants me to go back there. To that exact place, Clara's voice broke. I can't. I physically cannot walk through those doors again. Maybe that's exactly why he's making you, Maria said gently. Maybe he wants you to face it. Or maybe he wants to fire me in the place where I embarrassed him. Clara sank onto her bed. Either way, I lose. A knock interrupted them. Vincent stood in the hallway, impeccably dressed as always. Miss Clara. The car leaves in 30 minutes. I'm not going. Vincent's expression didn't change. Mr. Moretti anticipated you might say that. He asked me to relay a message. You can walk into that restaurant tonight, or you can pack your things tomorrow. Your choice. Clara's breath caught. He'd really fire me over this? Mr. Moretti doesn't make empty threats. Vincent's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, I've worked for him for 12 years. He's never held a staff appreciation dinner before. Not once. Whatever his reason for tonight, it matters to him. He left before Clara could respond. Maria squeezed her shoulder.
Get dressed.
I'll do your hair. The car ride felt like a funeral procession. Clara sat in the back of the town car with Maria and 2 other household staff, Jorge, the groundskeeper, and his wife Nina, who managed the household accounts. They chattered nervously about the restaurant, about Mr. Moretti's generosity. Clara said nothing. When they pulled up to La Veta, her stomach lurched. The exterior had changed, new lighting, new signage, but it was still the same building. The same place where she'd been humiliated. Deep breaths, Maria whispered. Vincent opened the car door. Welcome to La Veta. New management, new beginning. The words felt like mockery. Inside, everything was different. The decor had been completely redone. Darker, richer, more intimate. Soft jazz played. Candles flickered on tables draped in cream linens. It looked like a different world. But the terrace, God, the terrace was the same. The same view. The same tables. The same table where she'd sat with Eric. Clara. She turned to find Adrian standing at the entrance to the main dining room. He wore a charcoal suit, no tie, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. But his eyes were sharp, assessing. Mr. Moretti, her voice came out steady. A miracle. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? A ghost of a smile touched his lips.
No.
But I appreciate your compliance nonetheless. He gestured toward the dining room. Please join the others. The household staff had gathered at a long table, 8 people total, including Maria. They looked uncomfortable but excited, and used to such luxury. Clara took a seat at the far end, as far from the terrace as possible. Adrian remained standing. I won't keep you long with speeches. You work hard. You maintain my home with discretion and excellence. Tonight is my thanks, he raised a glass. To loyalty. To loyalty, they echoed. Servers appeared, Clara counted for, bringing appetizers. She tried to focus on the food, on the conversation around her, on anything except the mounting dread in her chest. Then she saw him.
Eric.
Carrying a tray of drinks. Wearing a server's uniform. Their eyes met across the room, and all the blood drained from her face.
No.
No, this couldn't be. Eric's tray tilted. A glass wobbled. He caught it just in time, but his hands shook visibly. He looked different. Thinner somehow. Exhausted. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by something that looked like fear. What was he doing here? Working as a server? At this restaurant? Clara's mind raced. The timing, the new ownership, Mr. Moretti's insistence she attend. Oh God. Clara? Maria touched her arm. You're pale. Are you all right? She couldn't breathe. I need air. She started to stand, but Adrian's voice cut through the room. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce our excellent serving staff tonight. His tone was casual, pleasant. They're working hard to make this evening perfect. The servers lined up, Eric among them, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. This is Sarah, Marcus, Jennifer. Adrian walked down the line, then stopped at Eric.
And this is Eric.
New to our team. He's learning quickly. Eric's jaw clenched. Clara felt the room spin. Adrian's eyes found hers across the space. There was something in his gaze, a question maybe, or a promise. Eric, Adrian said softly, why don't you take care of the table at the far end? I believe they need wine. The far end. Clara's table. Eric's face went white, but he nodded, picking up a wine bottle with trembling hands. As he approached, Clara saw the full picture. The bags under his eyes. The defeat in his posture. The way he couldn't quite meet anyone's gaze. He reached their table and began pouring, starting with Jorge. Working his way down. Getting closer. Maria whispered, Clara, that man, isn't he? Yes, Clara breathed. Eric reached her seat. The wine bottle hovered over her glass. Their eyes met again, his filled with recognition and humiliation, hers with shock and something else. Understanding. This wasn't coincidence. This was orchestrated. This was revenge. And Adrian Moretti was the conductor. Eric poured her wine with shaking hands, a single drop splashing onto the white tablecloth like blood. Enjoy your evening, he managed, his voice barely audible. Then he fled back to the kitchen. Clara looked up to find Adrian watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable.
But she understood now.
Every piece. Every move. He'd done this for her. Dinner became a performance Clara couldn't escape. Every time Eric emerged from the kitchen, Adrian found a reason to send him to her table. More water. Fresh bread. Another wine bottle. Each trip was a small humiliation, and Clara watched Eric shrink a little more with every approach. He's the one, isn't he? Maria whispered during the main course. The man from your date. Clara nodded, unable to speak. And Mr. Moretti knows. Another nod. Maria sat back, eyes wide. Madre de Dios. He bought a restaurant to do this. That was exactly what he'd done. The realization sat in Clara's chest like a stone, heavy, immovable, terrifying. The meal progressed. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, wine that probably cost more than Clara made in a month. The staff relaxed, laughing, enjoying themselves. Clara couldn't taste any of it. Then Adrian stood, tapping his glass. The room fell silent. I hope you've all enjoyed the meal, he said smoothly. Before we conclude, I'd like to share a story. Clara's pulse quickened. Last week I had a business meeting here. During that meeting, I witnessed something that bothered me. Adrian's voice was calm, conversational. I saw someone under my protection, treated with profound disrespect in a public space. The table shifted uncomfortably. They knew. Of course they knew. Household gossip traveled faster than light. This person, Adrian continued, his eyes finding Clara's, carried herself with more dignity in that moment than her aggressor has shown in his entire life. But dignity doesn't erase humiliation. It doesn't undo public mockery. Eric had frozen by the kitchen door, his face ashen. So, I asked myself, what does justice look like? Adrian walked slowly around the table. Violence? Too simple. Money? Too clean. No real justice requires understanding. It requires walking in someone else's shoes. He stopped beside Eric. Eric, would you join us for a moment? It wasn't a request. Eric approached on legs that barely supported him. Up close, Clara could see sweat beading on his forehead. Eric here made a mistake, Adrian said. He believed that someone's occupation defined their worth. That a maid, he let the word hang, didn't deserve basic respect. Mr. Moretti, please. Eric's voice cracked. I'm not finished. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You humiliated this woman because she brought $1 to a restaurant. You called her cheap. A gold digger. You made her a spectacle for your own entertainment. Clara wanted to disappear. Every eye was on her now. But here's what you didn't know, Eric. Adrian's smile was cold. That woman works harder in a day than you've worked in your entire life. She maintains a household of 15 rooms. She rises at 5 a.m. and works until 8 p.m. She saves every penny she earns, not because she's cheap, but because she sends money to her mother in the Philippines for medical care. Clara's breath caught. How did he know that? She'd never told anyone. She brought $1 because she's been on exactly 3 dates in 4 years, and she genuinely believed you'd split the bill like you'd agreed. Her crime wasn't being cheap, Eric. Her crime was trusting you. The silence was crushing. So tonight, Adrian continued, you're learning what she learned. How it feels to serve someone who looks at you like you're nothing. How it feels to smile while your dignity bleeds out. How it feels to be powerless. Eric's hands were shaking visibly now. I understand.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. You're not sorry. You're afraid. Adrian turned to Clara. The question is, what does she want? Every head swiveled toward her. Clara's mouth went dry. What? He humiliated you. I've leveled the field. But the choice of what happens next is yours. Adrian's expression was unreadable. I can end this now, or we can continue. Your decision. The power in the room shifted. Suddenly, impossibly, Clara held it. She looked at Eric, really looked at him, saw the desperation, the fear, the complete destruction of his arrogance. Part of her wanted him to suffer more, wanted him to feel every ounce of pain he'd caused her. But a larger part just felt tired. I want him to understand, she said quietly. Understand what? Clara stood, her legs steadier than she expected. She walked to Eric, who flinched as she approached. I want you to understand that I'm not less than you, because I clean for a living. That my dollar meant more than your 200, because I earned every cent of it honestly. That kindness costs nothing, but cruelty. She gestured around the restaurant. Cruelty costs everything. Eric's eyes were wet. I know. God, I know that now. My uncle lost his business. I lost my job. I've lost everything because I was cruel to you for 5 minutes. No, Adrian interjected. You lost everything because you were cruel to someone under my protection. There's a difference. The words hung in the air like a threat and a promise. Clara turned to Adrian. It's enough. He understands. Are you certain? She nodded. I don't want to become what he was. This is enough. For a long moment, Adrian studied her. Then he nodded. Very well, he looked at Eric. You're dismissed. Your debt is paid. Eric stumbled backward. Thank you. Thank you, I leave. Eric fled. The room exhaled collectively. Adrian returned to his seat. Dessert will be served shortly. Please continue enjoying your evening. Just like that, the performance ended. Conversation resumed, cautious at first, then growing warmer. But Clara remained standing, her heart pounding. Adrian caught her eye across the table and gestured toward the terrace. She followed him outside into the cool night air. You're angry, he said. It wasn't a question. Clara struggled for words. You destroyed his life. His uncle's business.
His job.
All of it. Yes.
That's
insane. It's terrifying. It's necessary. Adrian turned to face her. People like him don't learn from kindness, Clara. They learn from consequences. But I didn't ask for this.
No.
You asked for nothing. Which is precisely why you deserved everything, his voice softened. You thanked me for basic decency. That told me everything I needed to know about how the world has treated you. Clara felt tears building. I don't understand you. You don't need to. You just need to understand this. You are under my protection. Anyone who harms you, harms me. That's not negotiable.
Why?
Why do you care? Adrian was silent for a long moment. Because loyalty deserves loyalty. Because you've worked in my home for 3 years and never once asked for more than you were owed. Because in a world full of people trying to take from me, you just
Gave.
He stepped closer. And because no one embarrasses my household. Clara's tears finally fell. Thank you. I don't know if what you did was right, but thank you. Adrian nodded once, then returned inside. Clara remained on the terrace, looking out over the city lights, feeling like the world had tilted on its axis. She'd come here expecting humiliation. She was leaving with power she'd never asked for, and a protector she didn't fully understand. But for the first time in a week, she felt like she could breathe. The story spread like wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone in Adrian's network knew the boss had bought an entire restaurant to defend his maid. Not with violence, not with threats, with precision, strategy, and a spectacle that would be whispered about for years. Vincent fielded calls all day. Rivals wanting to confirm the story. Associates trying to understand the message. Everyone asking the same question. What did it mean? It means, Vincent told each of them, that nothing under Adrian Moretti's protection is insignificant. In the underworld, perception was currency, and Adrian had just made a deposit that would pay dividends for years. But the real changes happened quietly, in places most people never saw. Clara returned to work on Monday, with her head high. The other staff treated her differently now, not with pity, but with something closer to awe. Maria hugged her for a full minute. Jorge tipped his hat. Even the stoic groundskeepers nodded with new respect. She'd become a symbol of something they all understood. Adrian Moretti protected his own. But Clara herself felt different. Lighter, somehow. The shame that had weighed on her for a week had evaporated, replaced by something she hadn't felt in years. Worth. She was arranging flowers in the main hall when Adrian emerged from his study. Clara. A moment. She followed him inside. On his desk sat an envelope. What's this? She asked. Open it. Inside were documents. She scanned them, her eyes widening. This is a scholarship? For online business courses? You're intelligent. Resourceful. Wasted on cleaning toilets. Adrian's tone was matter-of-fact. The courses start next month. You'll work reduced hours to accommodate your studies. Your salary remains the same. Mr. Moretti, I can't. This is too much. It's an investment. When you finish, you'll manage the household accounts. Nina is retiring next year, he paused. Unless you'd prefer to leave? Clara clutched the papers.
No.
No, I don't want to leave. Good. Because you belong here, he returned to his work, dismissing her. That's all. She was at the door when his voice stopped her. Clara? Yes, sir. What you said on the terrace. About not becoming what he was. Adrian looked up. That took strength. Remember that. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Eric Castellano left the city 3 days after the dinner. His uncle's business had been saved. Adrian's holding company had restructured the debt, keeping Antonio afloat but firmly in their control. A leash, not a lifeline. But Eric himself was done. The story had reached his social circles, his workplace, everywhere he'd once felt powerful. He'd become a cautionary tale, the man who mocked the wrong person. Before he left, he did one thing. He sent Clara a message. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know words are cheap. But I need you to know that what happened to me wasn't about punishment. It was about understanding. And I finally do. I hope your life is everything mine wasn't. You deserve it. Clara read it twice, then deleted it. Some apologies didn't need responses. Some lessons didn't need forgiveness. 6 months later, Clara sat in Adrian's study going over household budgets. She'd completed 4 courses already, her natural aptitude for numbers surprising even herself. The wine expenditure is excessive, she noted. We can cut costs by switching suppliers here and here. Adrian reviewed her suggestions. Approved. Well done. She smiled, confident now in a way she'd never been before. The scared woman who'd fled a restaurant in tears felt like a different person. Mr. Moretti, she said carefully, I've been meaning to ask. That night at La Veta, how did you know about my mother? About the money I send home? Adrian was quiet for a moment. I make it my business to know about everyone in my household. Their needs. Their struggles. How else can I protect them? So you knew before that night? Yes. Then why? She struggled with the question. Why did it take Eric humiliating me for you to act? Why not help before? Adrian set down his pen, considering her carefully. Because before that night, you didn't need protection from anything but ordinary life. I'm not in the business of ordinary kindness, Clara. But when someone deliberately harms what's mine, that requires a response.
So it was never really about me.
It was about your reputation. It was about both. His gaze was steady. In my world, they're the same thing. Your humiliation was mine. Your defense was mine. You're woven into the fabric of my household. That means something. Clara absorbed this. It's a strange way to care about people. Perhaps. But it's the only way I know. She gathered her papers. For what it's worth, I understand now. And I'm grateful. Gratitude isn't necessary. I know. But you have it anyway. That evening, Adrian stood on his balcony, overlooking the city. Vincent joined him with 2 glasses of whiskey. The words fully spread, Vincent said. 3 rival families sent gifts. Everyone's trying to get on your good side. Let them try. You know they're calling her the Lion's Maid now? Like you've claimed her as some kind of treasure. Adrian's expression didn't change. She is a treasure. Just not in the way they think. What do you mean? She chose mercy when she could have chosen vengeance. That's rare. Worth more than gold. Adrian sipped his whiskey. People like that remind me that power isn't just about breaking things. Sometimes it's about protecting them. Vincent smiled. You've gone soft.
No.
I've gone strategic. Adrian turned from the view. Fear makes enemies. Loyalty makes empires. Clara's story did more for my reputation than a dozen executions.
Still.
You bought a restaurant for a maid. I bought a lesson for anyone who thinks they can disrespect what's mine. Adrian's voice went cold. And the lesson was heard. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker like stars. Somewhere down there, Clara was probably reading in her room, planning her next course, dreaming of a future she'd never imagined possible. Somewhere else, Eric Castellano was starting over, carrying the weight of his mistake like a scar. And everywhere, in whispers and warnings, people told the story of the Mafia boss who defended his maid, not with violence, but with something far more terrifying. Absolute, calculated power. The kind that didn't just punish. The kind that rewrote reality itself. And in Adrian Moretti's world, that was the only message that mattered. No one, embarrassed his household and walked away unscathed.